Howdy my totally tubular gamers, and we are back for another ranking video. Now today's ranking video is on the Mafia series. Yes, the Mafia series of video games, all released by 2K. I know there isn't the most Mafia games in a game series, but I thought it would be fun to talk about all the Mafia games that have released, as I quite like the Mafia games, and I'd argue that these games are really the best Mafia video games ever created, and some of the best depictions of the Mafia in general. I know I'm not alone on that one, because the Mafia series really kind of does have a cult following as well, and is kind of one of those lower 2K series that doesn't get all that much love when it really should, as I think it actually is pretty good. And most of these games, if not all these games, are of some quality. I can say that all the games on this list are at the very least decent to good, so there is that as well. And while there isn't that many of them, let's rank them. So what do I think is the worst Mafia game that's been released by 2K? Well, if we're being honest here, I think the worst of the Mafia games is honestly the original. I'm sure the original, when it came out, was a pretty big deal and it did a lot of crazy things, but coming back to it nearly 20 years later, I gotta say, it's really rough, and I gotta say that it is aged so poorly that I can't have it any higher on this list, honestly. I think the original Mafia just has a multitude of issues with it that prevent it from being a very good game. Is it still a decent enough game? Yeah, it's a decent enough little game. It's just, if you try to play it now and you didn't play it back in the day, you're in for, well, you're not in for a lot of fun. I played this well over 10 years ago and didn't like it then, and to be honest, I still don't really like it now, but I can't deny some of the better parts of this game. The best part of the game is by far the story, the setting, and the atmosphere that Mafia provides, as it's really unparalleled for the most part, especially on the PS2. The story is very good for a PS2 storyline, with excellent voice acting, and just a narrative that actually is really well done. It follows a lot of Mafia tropes, but I think the way the game progresses, and particularly the ending, are very well done, and you'd be hard-pressed to find as many good stories on the PS2 that are even half as good as Mafia 1. The setting was very authentic, it was very well done. It takes place over a number of different years, and it's really well done. And I think the atmosphere, again, second to none on the PS2. It was very well done. Those are its strongest aspects, and things that will always age well. They always will age well, because you'll always be able to appreciate it. The stuff that doesn't age well really is the gameplay, as the gameplay has not aged well in really any aspect. The controls haven't aged well, the driving certainly hasn't aged well. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's pretty authentic to most of the cars in this game, but driving is just not fun at all in this game. It is just a chore, it's a hassle, the police are beyond annoying, it's not a good time, honestly. And then the shooting is very subpar to just poor. Like, it wasn't very good even for the time, and I just think it's aged truly terribly. This leads to the difficulty being just way too much of a hike. Like, this game is extremely difficult, even for the time, and most of the time, the difficulty comes from not only the controls and enemy placement, but just the way the game is. It's just punishingly difficult, overly punishingly difficult, and most people who played this game didn't see the end. I can confidently say that I certainly didn't see the end. This game was so hard. Need I even start on the racing mission? Like, I don't even need to go into this. If you know Mafia, you already know this mission, and you know that it's horrible. And it's things like this that really keep the original Mafia at the bottom of the rankings for the Mafia games for me, because I just can't really get all that into it with its very outdated gameplay. Like, to the point that it's actually hindering the overall experience. I will say though, again, story, setting, and just the entire progression of the game, it's really unparalleled. It's really well done, and that's the game's only saving grace, because if it was just this gameplay, yikes. And for the number 3 spot, we have Mafia 3. Now, Mafia 3 came out a number of years ago to quite a mixed reception, but I actually thought that it was pretty decent to alright. It wasn't great, don't get me wrong, and the game did have some issues, but I still quite enjoyed my time with Mafia 3. The best part of the game was the story, again, which it will become a very common theme here with the Mafia games, as it starred Lincoln Clay in the 1960s in a fictional city known as New Bordeaux, which is very clearly supposed to be New Orleans, and it was very authentic to the setting. It got a lot of things right, and it was a very well told story. I thought the writing was superb, the voice acting was just as good as any of the other games, and it really had a great conclusion, and I really enjoyed the way that everything progressed out. And I thought the atmosphere, again, top notch, very well done. I would argue that the story and the characters might even be the best in the series. They might be, but they're probably not. They're very good though. Nobody will deny that. The thing that really kept the game down from being the best Mafia game was the gameplay, sadly. Now the gameplay is pretty good on its own. It's not dated as shit, it's not overly punishing. The problem with the gameplay is that it's very repetitive and it gets very stale. Something Mafia 3 tried to do that the other Mafia games did not was truly have an open world. While the other games had an open world, air quotes, there really wasn't an open world. It wasn't an open world in the traditional sense, and it was more like an open area, and it was just kind of a fake open world where you did linear missions. This was just a normal GTA styled open world, and I think it really was at the detriment of the game overall. Not only did the game feel a bit more generic, but it played a lot more generically as well, as a lot of the things that made the other Mafia games and their story so engaging, like the car chases and just the way time progressed, was really kind of gone, as it was just kind of your standard open world affair with the usual activities and collectibles, and I really wasn't big on that. A lot of the game just had you hunting down gangs. In fact, I'd say like 80 or 85% of the game had you hunting down gangs, and this was exactly the same every single time. Sure, you could be stealthy or just going guns blazing, but it was the same general thing every single time, and it got old real quick. And then the game didn't do it any favors, as this game was easily the longest Mafia game, clocking in at over 15 hours, and a majority of those hours were again just this very samey, repetitive mission where you just hunt down a gang, and it was even the same animations every single time. It was not exciting. The game lost steam really quickly, and the pacing was very poor because of that. And when there was actual missions, linear missions, like the other Mafia games, I thought it was pretty good. It really highlighted the game's excellent shooting and just mechanics, but unfortunately, that's not a majority of the time. A majority of the time you were just hunting down these gangs in pretty mindless scenarios that really didn't do all that much for me. And the only reason I continued doing this was because of the excellent plot, and because I knew there was some good missions hidden in this game somewhere, and eventually you do find them, and I think they're really good, especially towards the end of the game. It's just a shame you have to go through so much crap to get to them. In addition to this, I'll throw in a little note about the DLCs. I thought the DLCs were, they were pretty good. They definitely highlight the better parts of the game, that's for sure. And overall, I think Mafia 3 really had the potential to be the best Mafia game. However, it falls short in a number of different areas, and that's why it's number 3 here. And at number 2, we have the latest in the series, so it's Mafia Definitive Edition. So the original Mafia, it had some problems, as I brought up earlier. However, it had a great story and great setting and atmosphere and all that. And well, Hangar 13, the current developers of Mafia, decided, what if we actually just remade the game and kept the original story? And that's what they did. And so they remade the original Mafia with Mafia 3's gameplay and engine. And you know what? It's pretty good. It's actually really good. I had a really hard time deciding if this was the best Mafia game, but honestly the reason I was thinking that might have been a recency bias. Either way, that speaks volumes for the game's quality, as it's very good. It has the exact same plot as the original Mafia, with Tommy Angelo, and it starts in the Great Depression and goes through a number of different years and times that the Mafia, well, they were doing some stuff, and I'll leave it at that. And I think I'd argue this is the best setting for like any Mafia game and just general atmosphere of any Mafia game, period. Like, it's not even close, except maybe with the next game, because it's just very, very well done. And I really liked the way that the ending was also done, because, well, it's quite good, and I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil anything. But the biggest change to the remake was the gameplay. Now, the original game, I already stated it had some problems. This remake really aims to address all those problems. Everything has been overhauled and just been completely redone to be truly the definitive version of this game. The gameplay is very fun, it's engaging, it's intuitive, and everything you'd want, one of those buzzwords you'd want about a game, because it just plays well. That's the bottom line. The driving was good. It was actually fun. It wasn't clunky as shit. It wasn't really annoying and counterintuitive. The cops weren't total bastards. I mean, you could set them to be, but they usually weren't, which was definitely good. Some of the more annoying parts of the game were streamlined, such as the early missions, and even the later missions were improved as well. And you know, one thing that really improves the missions is the gunplay. The gunplay is a cover-based shooter, which is what I think the original was trying to go for, but just couldn't. And the gunplay, I'm not gonna lie, it's mostly average to maybe decent, and it's not anything amazing. It does feel a little heavy and underwater, but this is leagues better than anything the original game had. It actually made these gunfights like something you look forward to. It plays well, it's intuitive. I really like it. It flows very well. They really blew up all the set pieces to make them all feel bigger and more cinematic, and the shooting helps with that as well. And the game isn't overly punishing. You can make this game stupidly easy, or you can make it as hard as you want. You can make it as hard as the original, even harder. And you know what? That's really cool, and I think more games should do that, as it really plays to the best of both worlds. Like, this game is absolutely for everyone, as opposed to the original, which I didn't think that it was for everyone. This is the definitive way to play the original game. It is a solid game. It isn't the longest game at only like 5 or 6 hours, but it is still a very solid game. And if you like the Mafia and haven't played this game, I don't know what you're waiting for. I really don't. It's pretty cheap now also, but it's a great game. And at number 1, you knew we had to have it. You knew it had to be number 1. It's Mafia 2. Mafia 2 is easily the fan favorite of the series, and with good reason. Mafia 2 is a fantastic game in basically every aspect. It's a superb cinematic experience. That's what it really is. Its story is about Vito Scaletta, and it takes place in the 40s, and it's about his rise to power, basically, joining the Mafia, and, well, they're doing some shit, and they're getting involved with the other families, and I'm gonna just say the way that this game goes, really, really well done. Really well done. The intro, in particular, is one of the best intros in any games from this generation. Like, it was just very different, it was slow, it was impactful, and it really just left it really left an impact on me, and I still think about it even today. It's pretty good. The way everything progresses with Vito and Joe, and the way that the game turns out, very well done. It was just an excellent Mafia game. In that aspect, the time period was great, the setting was great, the atmosphere was definitely there. It's there, probably not as much as Mafia 1, but it was still really there. I can say the gameplay is definitely the best of all the Mafia games, as it's got the fake open world, it's got a lot of really good missions, it's expertly paced, the game does not go on too long, and it's not too short either. It definitely feels the right length. There's even some side collectibles. You can explore the world if you want. There's not all that much to it. And the shooting is actually pretty alright. The gunplay is, again, average to decent, even pretty good at some points. But I would say it's certainly better than Mafia Definitive Edition. I can say it's better than that. The game puts up a good challenge, and I think all the missions really provide something interesting for the game. And no two missions honestly feel alike, which is a pretty big deal, honestly. A lot of games around this time really just reuse shit over and over and over. In this game, I don't think this game really does that at all. All the driving was pretty fun, and yeah, a majority of the time you are doing a lot of driving in this game, but the driving luckily feels really nice. The cars are superb. Not only do they look great, but they feel great also, like, truly excellent. Most people probably wouldn't deny that the cars are excellent in Mafia 2, and it's one of the stronger points of the game. The presentation as a whole is quite good, and the music is very authentic, which is something I haven't brought up for all the other games, but the music is always authentic in these games. It's just my favorite music is from Mafia 2. And if you're looking for truly the best crime game on the 360 PS3 that isn't Grand Theft Auto, you're probably going to find it here with Mafia 2. I'm serious. I think it is really that good. I really enjoyed my time with Mafia 2 when I played it a few years ago with my boy Frame Raider. We reviewed it here on this channel, and I think he agrees as well that it's a great game and that Mafia games don't get any better than this. The series as a whole, I would say, is generally underrated, and I think that it is the best series when it comes to Mafia games. I mean, all it really has going for it against it is like The Godfather, and this is way better than The Godfather. And I guess that's Scarface game, but whatever. Besides that, Mafia, I have no problem recommending all these games except the first one. and I think that the average person should try it out. If you thought any of these games looked alright, go ahead, try it. I mean it, try it. But anyway, that's it for this video. I know it was a bit of a weird one where I only ranked 4 games, but hey, it's the Mafia games. They're all pretty good, I guess. So, I'll see you guys later. So have a good whatever holidays near you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with friends. Cool. See ya. Bye.